Interest rates have been up for a while and buyer demand has been down. With more choice of homes for sale in the market and less buying power, buyers have been slower to act, causing homes to sit on the market longer, sellers to take huge price drops and have a much harder time standing out from the competition. What do we do about this? I've been sharing tips on how home sellers can sell their home faster and for more money than anyone else on the market. This is part 3 of my 3-part series. If you haven't watched part 1 or 2, check out these links up here that will pop up here. Get caught up and then you come back here. I'm Kiel Lindsey, your Property Geek, and I'm a local realtor here in DFW with the Smith team. We're brokered by eXp Realty, and I am a listing specialist. Sellers are my specialty, it's what I do. And I wanted to share some tips to hopefully alleviate some of the heartburn some people are going through right now when trying to sell their home. Once again, if you haven't seen part 1 or 2, I would highly recommend going back and watching that. So I'll put another link up there again. Let's dive into part 3 of the 3-part series. And today we're going to talk about pricing your home right and why you should work with a local professional. So how to price your home correctly from the start. Now, this ties in very closely with hiring the right professional, but here's what you really have to look at in today's market and why it's so critical. So first off, pricing your home correctly from the start is highly critical in today's market. In fact, in DFW, 75% of homes last month sold under their list price. And when they sold under their list price, they were on the market a median of 45 days. In contrast to that, the other 25% of homes sold at or above their list price. But when they did that, they sold in a median between 6 and 8 days on market. So not only did these people, by pricing their home right from the start, sell faster, they sold at or above their list price, which more than likely netted them even more money. In addition to that, NAR, the National Association of Realtors, shows that if you hadn't have an offer within the first 10 showings or 14 days, whichever comes first, you're priced too high. Once you have the presentation of your house correct, so back in video 1, we talked about upgrades, repairs, and updates. In video 2, we talked about decluttering, we talked about staging, we talked about cleaning and getting your house ready for showings. If you've done all of that and you hit the market and no one comes to see it, or very few people, or let's say you have a bunch of people but no one makes any offers, you're priced too high. That is a very clear indicator. And this is super critical because if you go 2 or 3 weeks with no price drops, even when you do a price drop and people get notified again, it's much, much harder to get them reinterested in your house, especially at the same price, than you would have if you just done it right off the bat. When you come out of the gate with the right price and the right presentation, you're much more likely to get an offer at or above your list price because it creates urgency for people. If you've only been on the market for 3 days and you're already getting offers, you can communicate that to the other agents, then their clients are much less likely to try to haggle with you over the price of your house. It's part of the psychology of sales and how you can really get into a buyer's head and hopefully get them to make what you would consider a much more fair option. And honestly, if you have a beautiful house that has been repaired, updated, it's super clean and ready to move into, why wouldn't they pay market price for that? That's the kind of house they would. But if you, on the flip side, have a house that needs updating and repairs, well, that's going to be a much harder sell to someone to pay at, above, or list price for. So getting that price right from the beginning is what will entice them to see the house. They love it. They see the value and the price, and they think, oh my gosh, I have to get out there to see this house now before someone else does. You're really trying to create urgency with that price, and that is how you can still get multiple offers and get a high offer price at or above your list price, even in today's market where buyers hold all the power. So now you know it's highly critical to price your home right from the start. How do you do that? How they're going to do that, how an agent would look at it, or how they should, at least in my opinion, is twofold. First, as always, you have to try to estimate the appraised value. Now, keep in mind, a realtor's not an appraiser, and we cannot guarantee an appraisal. But using the same comps and the same techniques of how an appraiser would value the property, using adjustments for properties, similarities and differences, should get you pretty close. Because once you know the appraised value, that is what a buyer's loan should be based off of. And I know this is a little bit of a backward way of thinking. Well, why does that matter? If a buyer can't borrow against your house, it is highly unlikely they'll be able to purchase it. So this was kind of out the window a little bit, again, when the market was nuts a year ago, because buyers would be making these offers $30,000, $40,000, $100,000, $200,000 over the list price and guaranteeing it with cash. It's not the case anymore. Now, if an appraisal comes in low and the buyer doesn't want to fork over the cash, normally the seller is having to negotiate with that. Let's get ahead of that. So first off, we look at the comps and the appraised value. That should give us a nice starting point. Well, appraised value isn't always the same thing as market value. So another thing we're doing right now is we are looking at all your competition. Well, what other homes are for sale that a buyer would also be interested in if they're interested in yours? So for example, if you have a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house, 2,500 square feet with a pool in a nice neighborhood, or in a nice school district, we'll even say, what other homes like that are already on the market that buyers would also consider? What are they priced at? How long have they been on market? Are there any homes that are currently pending? Let's talk to those agents. What do they sell for? There's a lot of kind of background research that agents should be doing, because once we know what a home should appraise for, what the market is doing, and then what your competition is doing, those 3 things, we know where we can price your house to get ahead of the market. If the market is declining, or like it has been, we may need to price your home below the appraised value. I know that doesn't sit well with a lot of homeowners, but remember why it's so critical to price your home right from the start. When you get ahead of this, you will more than likely make more money than if you priced your home high so you can have negotiating room. That is the biggest mistake that I see most homeowners want to do, is they think, well, we'll price high and then we'll start coming down. Well, that sends the wrong message to buyers. It sends a message to buyers that you're negotiable. It tells them that you want to haggle. And guess what they do when they think that? They haggle and you make less, because you set that up right from the beginning. Now, if you create urgency with your price ahead of time, you're much less likely to get into those haggling negotiations, and you should make more in the sale than if you started high and came down low. Now, if you're interested in what your house could possibly sell for, I'd love to schedule a meeting with you and maybe show that to you. Even if you are not really thinking about selling right this second, it's really nice to know where you stand. So if you're interested in a home value analysis, hit me up, send me a comment or a message, and I'd love to do that for you. Okay, so hiring a realtor. Now, I have some very strong opinions about this, but I definitely think that if you're gonna sell your house, you should trust a professional. Yes, you can represent yourself in court, and yeah, you can fix your own car, but should you? Well, if you don't have experience in those areas, I would highly recommend hiring a professional. You will make more money. Most of us think defensively. How can I save money? And yes, if you don't hire a realtor, on paper, you might save money. We are not cheap. But what you're not thinking about is most of the time, a good realtor, a professional, will make you more than you would have saved. My clients, on average, when looking at it, make 3.5% more than your average realtor will get you for a house. How do I do that? Well, if you've been watching these videos, this is a very clear indication that not only are we going to help you get prepared better, we have a marketing plan for after the listing is live that will help attract more buyers to your house and hopefully get it sold for even more than we thought possible. Also, a realtor who is an expert negotiator knows exactly where in the contracts to give a little and where to take some. Negotiations will pop up, and if you have a brand new realtor, they may not know all the ins and outs of the contracts to really leverage in your favor. In Texas, there are over 30 ways a buyer can get out of a contract and keep their earnest money. To a seller, what that means is they can walk away with their hands free. Yeah, they might have lost their option fee or any inspection fees they paid, but that's much, much less than your normal earnest money amount. So it's important to know where those outs for the buyer are in the contract and how to avoid them or how to work around them very quickly and keep the leverage in the seller's favor, if at all possible. So how do you go about this? Well, I would strongly suggest doing some quick research into the number of transactions. I know that experience isn't always the biggest determining factor for success, but it's a strong one. So if you're hiring a brand new realtor, Well, what kind of backing do they have? Do they work on a team? If so, how successful is that team leader? And what kind of support are they going to get? Those are really important to know. If they're not on a team, well, what other experience do they have? Maybe they come from a background of negotiating. Maybe they have a strong analytical drive that will help you analyze properties and get you very good deals. Understanding their communication plan. How often are they going to communicate with you? And how do they prefer to communicate? Maybe you prefer phone calls, but they only text, or all of their messages to you will be through Snapchat. Just understand how they plan on communicating and if there's a cadence or a plan there. Also, understanding their schedule. Are they a part-time realtor? Is you hiring your friend who also does this on the side? Well, when will they be available to take care of you? And when are they setting aside time for their clients? Another great question is, how many clients do they have? That's really a good one. Because if you are client 12 and they're a single realtor, how much time are you really going to get from them? So these are all great questions to ask when you're interviewing a realtor. But the real things you really want to dial in on, how well do they understand the market? That's extremely important, because I knew a lot of good realtors that were not staying up with the market, because it's been shifting so quickly, and they would list homes that the prices were way out of whack, and now they're sitting in the market for a very long time. Is that always the realtor's fault? Not always, but when you see someone list a house and you know it should have been less or more, maybe they left money on the table. That happens too. It's important to think about, when you're hiring a realtor, how well do they fit with you, because they need to fit your values. I have things that I think are important, but they may not be as what's important to you. Maybe you want that hard-hitting negotiator. That's something to ask those realtors up front. Can they mesh with your style? Maybe you don't want that. You just want someone who is an expert marketer that can bring in the most clients. Obviously, most sellers, you want to sell for the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time, but does that realtor have a track record of doing that? Have them present to you their last 12 months of sales. What have they done? And again, if it's not them, if they're newer, well, what has their team done? Who's going to be supporting them again? These are all things you should really dig into when you're talking to hire someone for this big a transaction. I think the disconnect between what you pay a realtor and what people feel like they got is there are a lot of realtors out there that don't do very much business or do as good of a job for their clients. And I agree, in those situations, they probably didn't earn what you paid them. The Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, this does apply with realtors as well, where 20% of the agents do 80% of the business. But I really also believe if you take that one step further, 4% of the agents do 64% of the business. So when you're hiring an agent, are you hiring that top 4%? You're hiring that top 1%? Where does this person fall? That experience and that level of knowledge will really help you out down the road when you get into the negotiations of the contract. You'd be surprised how many contracts I get submitted to my listings that aren't even filled out correctly, and I have to help correct the other agents. So if you were in the market and you're going to be interviewing agents soon, send me a message and I would love to send you my agent questionnaire so you know exactly what questions to ask each and every one of your agents, so you can compare all of the answers, again, side by side, and hopefully pick out the exact right agent for you. Thanks for watching my 3-part series on how to sell your home fast here in the DFW market. I know some of these can apply all across the nation, but hopefully you took some real value out of this. If you did, please hit that subscribe button. That would mean a lot to me and really help me out, and you'll get notified when I release my next video. I strive to hopefully provide very valuable tips, insights, tricks, and market data so you can make the best decision possible and build wealth through your home. I'm Kiel Lindsey, your Property Geek. Thanks, and have a great day.